Hello and welcome to this lecture on top 10 things developers should know about WSL2. My name is Ashish and I look forward to help you understand WSL today. In May 2020, Windows released a major update which included a lot of improvements in their Windows subsystem for Linux. For people who are new to Windows subsystem for Linux, or WSL as they call it, it is a lightweight environment that lets developers run tools, utilities and applications directly on Windows without the overhead of a traditional virtual machine or dual boot setup. In a world that is increasingly becoming containerized, this offers a nice seamless development environment for both Windows and Linux developers. In this video, I am going to take you through the steps involved in getting WSL on your PC or laptop and the top 10 things that would get you started. Do pay attention. I will be sneaking in 4 bonus tips along the way. First, let us see how to get WSL on your system. Go to the Start menu and in the window that appears, locate the search box and type in Apps and Features. This will open up a new window where you will see the option to turn on the Windows features on or off. Click on the link and a pop-up box will appear. Scroll down and find the checkbox that says Windows Subsystem for Linux and enable it and then give OK. Now the Windows will ask it to be rebooted. Give Restart Now and let your system reboot. Once your system is rebooted, you will be able to go to the Start menu and search for Microsoft Store. In the store, search for Ubuntu. Here you will get a listing for Ubuntu 20.04 LTS, which stands for long-term support. Click on the Ubuntu icon, and since this is the first time you are doing this, it will take you through the installation steps. This will take a couple of minutes, at the end of which you will be asked to set the username and password that you would like to use for your Ubuntu installation in your Windows subsystem for Linux. Now that WSL is enabled and Ubuntu has been installed, we will look at how to run Windows Explorer to access your files in Linux environment. Some of you may be new to Linux and not familiar with Linux commands like ls that is used to list the files. Don't worry, just type explorer.exe space dot. In fact, you don't have to type the whole thing and hit the tab key, and your bash environment will take care of auto-completing it for you. Then you get a Windows Explorer view to browse through the files in the address space. If you want to know more about the files that are present in the home directory, you may have to take up a course of bash programming and Linux shell scripting. This will offer you a starting point on Linux user space and bash environment. Next, we will see how to use Linux commands directly from Windows command prompt. Open the regular Windows command prompt to run the Linux commands. In this case, I would ask you if you are new to Windows. Want to still use your favorite Linux commands? Open the Windows command prompt and proceed with using the Linux commands like ls, ps, etc. It may also be interesting to know that Windows now has multiple command prompts these days. Open Windows Store and type Windows Terminal. You can use this feature to mix and match Windows and Linux commands while piping. However, if you want your scripts to be portable, we highly recommend not to use this. Next, we will see how to run Visual Studio Code from within the WSL environment. Sometimes you may want to use the Windows environment for application development, and at the same time you may want to build and run the application in Linux environment. WSL provides the options for this too. You can now run the Visual Studio Code from within the WSL environment. You can follow the steps mentioned here to enable the same. Set the environment variable path for VS Code. Then use the code space dot command to open the Visual Studio Code for development in WSL environment. Now that we have seen the options available for application development, next we will see how to version control the same. We have options to integrate the Windows Git Credentials provider in WSL by making Git Credential Manager into a shell script that calls the Windows Git Credentials Manager. Next, we have an option to run multiple Linuxes side by side. This is among the key advantages of WSL. For example, you have Ubuntu distributions for 18.04 and 20.04 available in the Microsoft Store. You can have both installed at the same time. We can see the multiple distributions installed using the command as shown here. Also, we have an option to easily move WSL environments between Windows systems. Sometimes you may want to share your WSL environment, rather your Linux system, with one of your co-worker. We can move the file distribution of WSL between different systems. For that, you can use the commands as shown here. First, export the Linux system from your computer, then ask your friend to import the Linux system exported earlier in his computer. The important difference between WSL1 and WSL2 is that WSL2 includes a standard Linux kernel directly using the hypervisor interface, which means it's not like Windows is gating the system calls made by the Linux kernel. Both share the timers and hardwares almost equally, and one is not hosting the other operating system here. The next one is related to having an option of accessing your WSL environment from another system. You can use the OpenSSH server in your Linux system to access your WSL environment from another system. This also allows you to access your Linux system from Jenkins. You can add your Linux system as a node to the Jenkins job and automate the test runs in it. You will have to install OpenJDK in your Linux system, only then Jenkins will be able to access your Linux system. First, install the OpenSSH server. Next, edit the SSHD config file to allow password authentication. Next, start the OpenSSH server manually once. Next, we can use the putty to take remote of the WSL environment. However, there is one drawback that you need to start the OpenSSH server manually each time you reboot your system. And the only way to avoid that is having task scheduled which starts the OpenSSH server into the Linux system. Windows Task Scheduler can be used for this purpose. We can schedule a task which runs the WSL commands to start the OpenSSH server. We'll move on to open the Windows Task Scheduler now. You have an option to create task here. Under the General section, give a relative name to the task. Enable run whether user is logged on or not. Do not store password and run with highest privileges. And then click OK. Under the Triggers section, click New. Select at Startup and begin the task drop-down. Under Advanced Settings, check the Delay task and give the time duration. Click on OK. Under Action section, click New. Select Start a Program in Action drop-down. Under Settings, browse and give the location of bash.exe. Under Add Arguments, give the following. And then finally click OK. Reboot the PC for the settings to get reflected. Next, we'll see Hyper-V working in tandem with WSL. WSL does its job, but sometimes you may want a full-blown Linux system with its GUI and capabilities. Hyper-V has been there for a while. I am going to quickly show you how you can install a complete Linux desktop operating system without any need for dual boot complexity. Choose Ubuntu 18.04 at the moment. Of course, we have 20.04 available, but 18.04 has better integrations and it works more seamlessly in terms of access to clipboard and more seamless graphical performance. We highly recommend 18.04 until 20.04 has the same level of integration. Of course, it's been only a couple of months since 20.04 got released, and let's hope Microsoft to bring the same level of integration soon in 20.04 as well. Finally, we will look at the steps to integrate Docker Desktop with WSL. Install Docker Desktop, then open the General settings in Docker Desktop. Select Use the WSL2 based engine option, then click Apply and Restart. The same way, go to General and WSL integration, select Ubuntu, then click Apply and Restart. So that enables Docker in your Linux subsystem. Let us have a recap of items that we have learned today. Enabling WSL, installing Ubuntu, using Windows Explorer within WSL, using Linux commands from within Windows command prompt, different command prompts available now in Windows, use Visual Studio Code from within the WSL environment, use Git credentials stored in Windows from within Linux, running multiple Linux environments side by side, export your Linux environment from one PC to another, use OpenSSH to access your Linux systems remotely, start your Linux subsystem at boot up, using Hyper-V instead of WSL if you need a full-blown Linux without dual booting, run Docker in WSL. Option to add WSL Linux system as a node to Jenkins job. So that was a quick introduction to the top 10 things developers should know about WSL2. Hope you enjoyed the lecture and I look forward to help you implement the concepts of OPC UA using Open625 Stack in WSL environment. Thank you.